What's up? What's up, everybody? Glad to be back. I know it's late, but where else would you rather be on this lovely Friday night? Some of y'all like shit at the strip club. I'm just fucking with you. Hey, do me a favor. We about to get started right away, but do me a favor. Hit the like button and share this. Share it. Let's get some more people in the building. All right, let's begin. How everybody doing? Tonight we just gonna pick up where we left off yesterday. Sorry that I waited so late, but it's been a long day for me, and I decided to stay behind to do this for you guys while the family go out. So I made a little sacrifice because I got so much to do that I just want to get stuff out the way. I'm overwhelmed. So I was like, yeah, let me go ahead. I don't want to, say that I'm going to do something and don't do it. So here we go. And like I said, share this. We about to start in a minute. I'm just kind of setting some stuff up. Sorry about that. And again, sorry for being late. All right, we about to begin here just in a minute, guys. All right, guys, how y'all doing? Welcome back to the show in Herstory to Hisstory Part 4, where we are today. And we're going to pick back off where we left off. Yesterday, we went over royal succession. And I'm going to let y'all know something right now, man. Oh, yeah, and shout out to my brother Ken Beckford. Yeah, it's going to be a closed panel tonight because I got so much stuff to go over. Because what I'm doing now, I'm actually making Herstory to Hisstory live. So I'm taking these, edited them. I'm gonna take these and edit them and upload it on my regular channel, my main channel. So I got to have a closed panel. So when I edit it, it ain't a bunch of people interrupting and all that. So I'm kind of making a video right now, but I'm just deciding to make it live. That's all I'm doing with these. So the next video I do, though, will be an open panel. So, yeah, I can't wait to do an open panel, man. So I'm looking forward to it. Yesterday, we was talking about royal succession. We was talking about phallus worship and the lineage of the first king or the first pharaoh, which is normal. We was talking about all of that yesterday. So we're going to pick right back up, where we left off on that. So we got 69 people in the house. Hopefully y'all will share this. We can get at least 100 people in here. So, but nevertheless, I'm going to go ahead and start. You remember yesterday, we synced up Narmer or Menes with a bunch of deities. Pan, Zeus, and a bunch of them. So today I'm just going to be reading a lot of information to you guys and then breaking the information down to y'all going over some of the same stuff that we went over, but we're getting deeper now. We're going to dig deeper. So let me go ahead and start. We're going to start right here. So I'm going to just be reading this stuff. And if you don't understand, don't worry, because I'm going to break it down. So the names that we're reading about, don't worry about them. I'm going to explain who these is too. So we're going to just start right here if you want to read with me. Now we're talking about the history of government in Egypt, just for y'all who still don't know where we are. So Hadrian would have delighted in the cities, libraries, and temples. Okay, we starting right here. Antinous, like adolescents of all ages, no doubt was intrigued by the fact that Oxynchronous, what is this? Oxyrhynchus, Greek word for pointy snout. Don't worry about what that means. I'll break it down in a minute. So this was a god named Oxyrhynchus. Takes its name from a phallic-shaped fish, which was worshipped by the Egyptians because it had devoured the severed penis of Osiris. Keep that in mind. Remember yesterday we was talking about a lot of stuff that a lot of people probably, was tripping off, finding it uncomfortable or whatever, But trust me, I'm so anxious to get through this part of the series because it's a lot of phallic talk, a lot of, phallus, penis talk. But we got to go over this because this was a very important part of our, history. So let me continue this. So what we're reading about now is one of these penis gods that was being worshipped in Egypt. And what I'm reading to you is just my proof to show you that when you're debating these Kemetic scholars, that they can't lie. Everybody during this time was being corrupted. When the first male pharaohs started ruling the world, that's when phallic worship became prevalent, and it's still prevalent today. Everybody worshiping a deity that has a phallus. Is that simple. Ain't no goddesses being worshipped around the world like they was in our pre-dynastic times. So all I'm doing here today is Herstory, Hisstory, showing you how we go from uterus worship to phallus worship. And here's evidence, okay? So let me read this again and we're going to move on. This god we talking about now is another form of Narmer or Menes and another form of the obelisk. So Antinous was a political figure or some sort of historian back in Egypt. We'll go over him later. But like adolescents of all ages, no doubt was intrigued by the fact that Oxyrhynchus takes its name from a phallic-shaped fish which was worshipped by the Egyptians because it had devoured the severed penis of Osiris. Now, this Oxyrhynchus fish, this is it right here. And it's just a simple fish, right? But the fish shapes like a phallus. All right, so that's why it was worshipped. But this fish god is the reason why Jesus is associated with fishes. Remember that the symbol for Jesus is a fish. All right, remember that. When you want to know why the symbol for Jesus is a fish, is one thing is Pisces, of course, we know that. But it's also the original reason for it it's just an offshoot of this deity Oxyrhynchus. So Jesus, we know, was a blended deity that was a result of them syncing all of these phallic deities together. Osiris, Zeus, Oxyrhynchus. We're going to look at some more, but they all are Narmer. So here's the fish Oxyrhynchus that was being worshipped in Egypt. And today it's still being worshipped in Egypt because Egypt is America. America is Egypt. And it's in the form of Jesus today. Another form of this Oxyrhynchus phallus fish god is this guy. Let me find him for you. Here we go. So his name is Dagon. And as you can see here, cult of the phallus. So for you guys who just new to this, know that you know this is old stuff, okay? Dagon, the fish god, is a form of Jesus. Now, yesterday we talked about those fake beards. I pointed out the fake beards to you, some to identify Norma. So Dagon here is a form of Norma, and his pharaoh's hat is just in the form of a fish because they blended him with Oxyrhynchus. So all of these deities are a mutation or blended, like rolling a snowball down the hill throughout the years, where they started with this first god, Norma. All right. And throughout the years, he was just mutating into different deities. You know, people was tweaking them, adding on their little spices to it. And today, like I said, is Jesus. But I'm showing you all of the transitions of this first king, who we call Norma or Menes. This is Pan and all of that. So remember the one hand raised and a beard, and you can see that this is the same God. That's all we doing. We just want to sync all of this together. And this should wrap it up, part 4 here for all of the phallus portion, you know. But let's read some more here so that while we read, we're going to get some visuals, just like I'm doing, so that we be thorough. Now, there are several versions of the myth concerning the travails of Isis and Osiris. The Nile is a very long river, and each region seems to have had a local version of the tale of the death and resurrection of Osiris. You need to keep that in mind so you can realize why Brother Sanchez got to keep on showing you all of these different gods. That's the same dude. Okay? Why is that? What we just read. All right, the Nile River was a very long river, and each region had a local version of the tale and of the death and resurrection of Osiris. So everybody around the world that's talking about the death and resurrection of Christ, they're really talking about the death and resurrection of Osiris, the death and resurrection of Oxyrhynchus, the death and resurrection of Serapis, the death and resurrection of Norma, Menes, Dagon, the Pope. Because the Pope died and he resurrected through his succession. When a Pope dies, a new one takes his place. And there's a lineage, there's a succession. They know who's going to go next. They got an order, okay? And remember, an order is part of a kingdom, a rulership. The New World Order mean the order of succession. They know which Pope going to be in, ruling for the next hundreds of years. They already know, okay? So keep in mind now what we're talking about here, and remember what we went over yesterday. All right, so let's keep it moving. This death and resurrection of Osiris is the same death and resurrection that everybody in the world talking about. So people in Oxyrhynchus told her, and Oxyrhynchus is a city as well that was founded by the Ptolemies in Egypt. Remember what was going on in Egypt at this time? It was a big melting pot, and it was like Sodom and Gomorrah. Sexuality was frivolous. Homosexuality was rampant and normal. Y'all, when I tell you it was, listen, trust me, you can only imagine. All right. We talking about Egypt when the patriarchs rose to power. All right, and it was unified with Greece and Egypt. You had all of these different people on the land, and American lifestyle was being born right there out of this melting pot. And man, it was just a culture of just mundane values and, you know, luxuries and vanities and, you know, like I said, wild sex and you name it. So people in Oxyrhynchus, which was a city that was near Egypt or in Egypt, told a version in which Seth, god of chaos, murdered his brother Osiris and dismembered his body, strewing the various body parts up and down the length of the Nile. Grieving Isis went in search of her lover's limbs, collecting them and reassembling them. And what we're talking about now is just reincarnation. It's a story of reincarnation. She found every bit of him except for his penis, which had been ingested by the Oxyrhynchus fish, giving the creature a distinctly phallic shape. So this fish swallowed the penis of Osiris. Now, this is where we kind of got to get homo a little bit, okay? Because we talking about a man swallowing another man's phallus right now. This Oxyrhynchus fish was a god. I told you this was Dagon. If you look at the shape of him, he's shaped just like the Washington Monument. He's shaped just like a penis. But they said he get this shape from swallowing one. Do y'all see how sick this is? So this is how this fish get this shape. And now if you look at the collage again, you can see that the shape of this fish became the shape of the obelisk, or basically when the pharaoh have an erection with a skirt on, it looked like a Washington Monument, like you see in the top left corner. Okay, so we're gonna rush through this because I know a lot of people uncomfortable with the phallus talk, but this is a part of the series. It was a crucial part of the timeline where we went from matriarch to patriarch, so we gotta be mature and let's just come on and learn, all right? So, let's keep on reading, and we're gonna try to rush through it. To this day, some people in Egypt refuse to eat this fish, calling it unclean. If I believe this myth, I wouldn't eat the fish. Let me skip through here, man. Hey, if you believe that this fish swallowed the penis of a dude, you probably wouldn't eat the fish either, man. But that just show you how bizarre our beliefs is today. Like some people won't eat that fish because they really believe this crazy myth. Like Christians got their crazy superstitions. Everybody got them. That's just show you how lost we are today. But let's keep going. I'm going to try to sum all of this up. In this particular story, the goddess Isis actually enlisted the help of her sister Nephthys, because they were searching for these body parts. So she enlisted the help of her sister Nephthys and Anubis, all right, who was the illegitimate son of Isis himself, depending on which version of the story you hear. Many versions, we're just giving one now. So excuse me for the choppiness. I'm trying to rush through this. So basically, you read on in the story, and she used magical spells over life and death, which she had tricked Ra into entrusting to Thoth, who then passed the spells on to her and magically restored Osiris to everlasting life. Just a creative story telling you about resurrection. But the word resurrection is two-part, coming from the two words rise, erection. Rise, erection. And in this picture, you can see why this rise erection story or this resurrection story dealing with life and death. Whenever life is created, it's all, it can't happen without a erected phallus and a womb. That's how children, are made. All right. So again, rise, erection, resurrection, dealing with life and death. During this time, the male had personified the female uterus. We know that life and death happens through the womb, okay? But during this time, it began to be happen through the male, just like we hear in the Christian church that Jesus is the gateway through life and death. But the womb really is. So we went over that yesterday, but we just showing you how the word resurrection became the definition of life and death, and it means rise, erection, because you're talking about resurrecting through the phallus, which is impossible. We all resurrect through the uterus, but I'm just showing you the backwards history that we went through as we transition to be where we at today in this backwards new world order. So, you go on and you read the story that she basically made a penis for him because remember the fish god had swallowed it. So she made one for him, planted it in his loins, and some say she transformed herself into a hawk and made it with the phallus that she made for him. And this is why they was able to give birth again. So I'm going to break all of this down in a minute. Others say her wiles were enough to cause a spontaneous ejaculation, which sent semen gushing in great arcs. So when she was flapping her wings, that's what caused him to ejaculate, the friction of the wings flapping. And then he basically came up into the air and bursted it like a waterfall all over himself. Now listen, y'all, we adults, let we get knowledge here. So check this out. What I want to say about this story is the reason it's such a bizarre, sick story is because they removed the womb. Now, it'll be simple to just say, hey, man, he had sex with a woman and they gave birth to the son. But since they despised the woman and they was deleting the role of the woman out of history, they just couldn't have a normal, natural story of Osiris having sex with a woman, like how all of us normal people act. Right here, we got bestiality. Now, today, when you go on these bizarre porn sites that some of these sick people go to, you see them having sex with cows, chickens, and people today just so sick. Well, how are they able to conceive this type of sexuality? Think about it. How are people today so sick that they're able to have sex with cows and chickens and all of that? Women having sex with dogs and all of that. You think it just started today? Well, it had to be conceived in the minds of humanity. So now we got to ask ourselves, what did the first conceptions of humans having sex with animals take place? Where is the first recorded proof on earth of humans having sex with animals? You're looking at it right here. This is your first bestiality, spirituality. So basically what I'm doing, I'm showing you a history of all the sick behavior that make this unbalanced world that we live in. So I'm showing you that this stuff go all the way back to the first patriarchs of Egypt and Greece, right here with Norma and the first, homosexual pharaohs that started the New World Order. I'm showing you not only did homosexuality start here, but bestiality started here with humans having sex with animals. Because for you to conceive something like this, for you to sit there and think of a story like this, you had to be sick. The average human, if I sit there and give 10 grown-ups a sheet of paper and a pen and tell them to write me a creative, set story of life being created in resurrection, I don't think they'll start having women mating with dogs and men having sex with birds. I mean, you got to be on a sick level to think like that. Now, the comedic scholars like to come tell you these stories and glorify them and bamboozle you. And this is a beautiful story. No, it's sick. This is the first form of bestiality. This man having sex with an animal. If it ain't good on a porno, it ain't good in this spiritual mythology. So you got to be a fool if you won't watch a dang on animal porn. If you won't put on a porno with a man having sex with a bird and watch it in your house, then why would you read it for your spirituality, you fool? We got to wake up. Why y'all think I'm up late, man? This is important. People got to wake up, y'all. Think about what I'm telling you. You wouldn't sit your child down and let them watch a porno with a man having sex with a bird, but you will read them this story. You will read them this, and it's the same thing. It's a sick story when all they had to do was put a woman right there and it'll be all right. I'll let my child know about that. I'll say, son, look at this. This is how you got here. Man and woman. Not man and bird. That's the same thing that the Christians trying to do to you. Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Two men having sex with a bird and each other. And bestiality and homosexuality. And it starts right here in Kemet, y'all. I'm showing it to you right here. You see it in front of you. You've been seeing it, but you just ain't been thinking about it the way Brother Sanchez getting you to think about it now. So let's move on because we got a lot to go over. This man nutted all up in the air, all over himself. Yeah, we're going to have fun and laugh, but we're going to be mature. Don't let this offend you. All right, this is just natural stuff. The Most High made our bodies this way. Embrace it. Have fun with it. By the way, I'm not looking at the chat either, so I will be peeking throughout the stream. But as of now, I'm just trying to go over this stuff with you. So let me keep it moving. So we see she made him a phallus and changed herself into a bird because a bird will turn him on, not a woman. Now think about that. She changed herself into a bird to have sex with him. If I was Osiris, I'd be like, hold up, wait, change yourself back. What you doing? If my woman can transform like that, I wouldn't tell her to transform to no bird. Like, what the fuck? I'm not trying to screw no bird. You better transform your ass back, abracadabra. Hey, where my baby back? I don't want no damn bird on my nuts. The comedic folks ain't gonna like this, y'all, but I'm keeping it real. They need to wake up. This sick stuff, they ain't no better than these other folks that they, talk crap about. They ain't free. So, it's a part of this that I'm looking for. It's very important. And then we're gonna keep it moving. All right. Here we go. Let's skip it on down right here. Let's see what Herodotus wrote. And again, these are just Greco-Egyptian historians, political figures of the time. But I can't really say of the time. They're actually writing this myth from their time, but the myth they're writing is telling you the beginning of creation through this dude, Osiris. So you got to keep that in mind. Nobody was around when the earth was created. The time that we get these creation stories, each one of them is synced to the rise of certain deities that was rising up during a certain time. People just taking the same story and tweaking it. But I already went over the first origin stories if you want to check out the ripple effect. Let's see what Herodotus wrote. So they had a festival, of course, that was observed for this sick myth. And the rest of the festival of Dionysus is observed by the Egyptians, much as it is by the Greeks. Keep that in mind. We're talking Greco-Egyptian. That's what we in today. The same things that's valuable in American society is valuable in Egyptian society. Greece and Egypt are two heads of the same dragon. So the people that calling themselves African scholars and Kemetic scholars are also in Greek fraternities, Greek society. So it's still a Greco-Egyptian hidden hand that's in power. Now, let's talk about this festival. So it's observed by the Egyptians and the Greeks, except for the dances. But in place of the phallus, they have invented the use of puppets, 1 cubit high, moved by strings, the hinged male member nodding and nearly as big as the rest of the body, which are carried about the villages by women. A flute player goes ahead, the women follow behind, singing of Dionysus. So in this festival, they had a huge phallus and they played a flute like a parade. And yesterday, I told y'all that the god Pan was a form of Norma. And when you look at Pan, he carries a flute and he has a huge phallus hanging out everywhere he go. So what we're talking about is the reverence of this Greco-Egyptian god called Pan, which is the Baphomet, which is the god of the boule of all of your sororities and fraternities. This is the god right here that they all worshiping. All right. So it ain't the devil, it's Pan, and this is Norma Ramenes. He carried this flute and he had an erection. So what we reading here, I'm just making it make sense to you, okay? During this festival, they had a flute player, and they carried a big old phallus around. And if you look at the gay parades today, that's what they doing. It's phallus worship all around you. I can open up another Google tab now and show it to you. They got inflatable phalluses. You can get phallus birthday cakes. They got phallus cupcakes. It's a whole market for that. And in these parades, like I said, they have blow up phalluses marching them around. And it ain't nothing new. This come all the way back to Egypt. And I'm showing it to you right now. So let's move on. The semen which Osiris sired Horus was no ordinary semen. Of course, it was the semen of the first god. Now, we got to keep this in mind, okay? We got to keep this in mind because this first god, again, is normal. We went over this. We went over it. The first pharaoh was called the first god or the first rising sun. So there's something, right, that pharaohs, because we're talking about heliocentrism. Phallus worship is synonymous with sun worship. So when you got to think about the terminology that we use, okay? So let's talk about some things that the S-U-N and the S-O-N have in common, because the pharaoh is a son. He's not a daughter. He was born of a mother. He's a male. He's a son. He's a ruling son. And back in these days, they called it a rising sun. But why did they call it a rising sun? Because when the pharaoh rose to power, the calendars changed to solar calendars because it was easier to sync that with the succession and the lineage of the sun. So this is as above, so below at its finest. Even though it's blasphemy, this is magic. This is really some deep science right here. How they sync the S-U-N to the succession and rule of the S-O-N. It's really deep. You had to be good at your math and all of that. But even the best mathematicians that they had, you still see our time and our calendar still messed up today, because you can't outsmart nature. It's as simple as that. But you can deceive the people, and I got to give them credit for that evil brilliance, But anyway, things that the S-U-N and the S-O-N have in common, so that you can see that Jesus is the S-U-N, all right, the Most High, the light of the world, and all of this good stuff. So kings or pharaohs wear crowns, and the son wear a crown as well. So Jesus wore a crown of thorns, but that's really what the son wear, a crown of thorns, a bunch of little spikes around this circular ball, and that is a crown on the sun in the sky. But the pharaoh crown the same way. And the word crown is another way of saying corona. Okay, so the word crown and corona is the same. And that's why kings are sons that rise to power. Remember, things that the S-U-N and S-O-N have in common. They both rise to power. The sun rises to power every morning. Just like the first king rose to power. Just like when we talk about the male sex organ, we say that it's rising. Okay, when you go from soft to hard, man, okay, we say that it's it's rising. So we're talking about the terminology that we use and why we use it. Where did it originate? Why we talk the way we talk, okay? Why we say the things we say. Why do we say kings rise to power and say that the sun rise also? Okay, I'm showing you that now. Let's see some more things that the S-U-N have in common with the S-O-N. Not only do they both rise to power, they set up their kingdoms. So the S-U-N and the S-O-N rise to power, then they set up shop. They set up their kingdoms, all right? And they shine in all their glory. You see the words that we use, you see, and they rule over people. All right. The pharaoh ruled over people. The son is over you. It rules over you, okay? Now, and they both are born from the mother, of course, the darkness, the great deep. So that's the thing about the Madonna and child. But let's keep this thing moving. All right, let's keep this thing moving. So it say here that the semen that we was reading about in this 6th story, you can see the picture here, him bursting up the semen right here, creating life, you know, or whatever, some kind of birth story. We're gonna read on. So the semen with which Osiris sired Horus was no ordinary semen. It was the semen of the first god. You see, this is in quotations. That first god is Normer. I'm not going to be repetitive because we already went over this. So Hadrian and Antinous would have heard a lot about the semen of the first god during their travels through Egypt. A few days before they arrived at Oxyrhynchus, they had visited Heliopolis. Remember, we're attacking heliocentrism. Helios is another way of saying hell or chaos, and they have an order out of chaos. So these guys embrace Helios, and Helios is the name of one of their gods. All right. So, like I said, heliocentrism is deeper than the shape of the earth. It's the shape of your deity. And most flat earthers ain't ready to take this pill that us Flat Panthers taking. They still, you know, sugarcoating, straddling the fence. We all the way in right now. See, now let me keep on going. So what we reading about now you got to think about some of the stuff that we do today. We make it rain. Rappers got so many raps talking about how they wetting girls with their semen, how I put it in her face and skeeted it all on her, and how I made it rain and all of this stuff. All of this terminology and why we do these crazy things is because of this first God. What the mythologies associated with this God and the sculptors and the things surrounding him became the thing to do in society. Just like when Michael Jackson was popular, we wore Michael Jackson clothes. I had a Michael Jackson outfit. You know, we tried the moonwalk. We imitated the things that was held in high regards in our society. So this first God is the reason why men constantly grabbing their crotch today and think it's cool. Because that's how you see him all on all of his statues holding his nuts with one hand raised, giving his oath. That became cool, you know. So all of this stuff, I'm just pointing out to you how we still do this stuff today in our sex lives and stuff like skeeting, semen and all that. Yeah, this ain't nothing new. So I'm just, you know, the stuff I'm trying to teach y'all, it's the stuff nobody want to talk about, but that we all do in our bedrooms and all of this. And we got to keep it real and learn about this human body and learn the history of how we get started doing the things we do and just be mature and with this stuff and have an open mind and learn about it, you know. Instead of being immature when we talk about this type stuff, think more about it from a biological standpoint. Seeing how the ancients looked at the body and what organs they held in high regards and spirituality, how they looked at nature and how they built their societies because of those viewpoints, which of course we know was Sodom and Gomorrah type societies, you know. So look here, let's keep going. Hold up a second. All right, so this was a city called Oxyrhynchus, which was named after this fish god. And who is this fish god? This fish god was the one that swallowed the phallus of Osiris. The reason why he had to go through all of this with this phallus and get another one sewn on and all of this crazy stuff. So this 6th story is here because, you know, they took away the great mother in the womb. When you take that away, you got to have all kind of, you know, crazy stories to explain the rebirth of how, you know, things started because you hide in the original stories that made more sense. But now, let's keep moving. let's keep on moving because I want to make sure I don't miss nothing. Let me just read all of this. I skip around. So Oxyrhynchus was a town near Memphis / Cairo, where the Egyptian magician priest Pancrates gave to Hadrian. Now keep this name Hadrian in mind because Hadrian was an emperor during the time. Hadrian was a very powerful man. Matter of fact, no, Hadrian wasn't an emperor. Hadrian was a political figure who wrote to the emperor. So Hadrian was a powerful man who basically can go and holler at the emperor anytime he want to. And one of the emperors that he wrote to was the Emperor Servianus, if I'm not mistaken. And we're going to look at the letter that he wrote to the emperor to show y'all some more revelations of this New World Order. So check this out. Hadrian, so Pancrates gave to Hadrian a magical spell which could bind another man's affections to him forever. Let me read this again. Hold up a second. Let me shut this door too. We about to go deep now. If you watching this stream and you've been debating Kemetic scholars who talking about Egypt ain't never had no homosexuality and y'all hating on these pharaohs and you hate your people. No, we just telling the truth. Here, read this. So this town, Oxyrhynchus, near Memphis, and we already know it's named after a gay fish, basically. A gay fish god. The city named after a gay fish god, which is now Jesus. But now anyway, Pancrates gave to Hadrian a magical spell which could bind another man's affection to him forever. So this man was trying to put a spell on another man. And when the spell was cast properly, but if the spell was cast wrong, the spell would result in death of the other man. So these guys was homosexual. They was casting spells to make other mans be affectionate to them. So there was some speculation in ancient times as to whether the death of Antinous may have been related to this strange Egyptian spell. All right. So let's keep reading on about this Bennu bird, which is, remember I was showing y'all the ancient pre-dynastic bird goddess with her arms raised. All right. We're going to read now how she became a man. When we went from Herstory to Hisstory. So back to the phoenix of Heliopolis, the Bennu bird who comes into being by himself. See, now you got this Bennu bird who is a male bird now replacing the phoenix goddesses that predated. So he had to come into being by himself, meaning abracadabra, I just appeared. This is your first Big Bang concept, people. I'm giving y'all some deep knowledge. This is them hiding the womb. Who just comes into existence? Have you ever been sitting in your room and somebody just popped out of existence right out of nowhere and said, hey, how you doing? I just came to Earth. My name is Bill. I just was born out of nowhere. No, you came out of a womb and you was given a name by your mother. Remember that. So these gods is different than all of us, y'all. They just popped out of thin air and named themselves. All right, because when they was hiding the womb, you get all of these crazy pseudoscientific myths that don't make no sense. It's fairy tale. We got to get back to nature, man. All right, everything come from a womb. So let's read on. This Bennu bird came into being by himself. Hadrian and Antinous visited Heliopolis and were no doubt shown the sacred shrine of the Bennu bird, who was said to have burst forth in a shower of radiant light from the heart of the first god. Do y'all hear this? See, this shower and this radiant light that came forth as a form of a shower was the sperm of Osiris. Remember I told y'all that sperm is liquid light? That's why they call it a discharge, like electricity. Don't you know that a sperm shaped like a spark plug? That's not who you are. You're the egg. The sperm is the consciousness light that make the egg activate. I went over that yesterday. I'm not going to go over it again. The sperm is liquid light. So now we're reading this sick homosexual story of these two men exchanging sexual fluids. All right, let's keep reading. So the Bennu bird came into being by himself. All right. Hadrian and Tinas visited Heliopolis and were no doubt shown the sacred shine of the Bennu bird, who was said to have burst forth in a shower of radiant light from the heart of the first god. So let's move back up. Let me show you what they're talking about. You see this bird right here? In the first version, we read that this bird was a goddess. And I told y'all that there were many versions. If you was paying attention, you remember me. I said it. There were many versions to this story. So I gave you the version where they replaced the womb with a bird and the man practicing bestiality, having sex with an animal. So right here we looking at a sick story of a man having sex with an animal. But now it gets even sicker, because in another version, they tell you that not only is he having sex with a bird, but that the bird is a damn man bird that was born out of his semen. So in other words, in one story, the bird caused him to ejaculate because he was having sex with a doggone bird like a fool. And in another version, he ejaculated and gave birth to a male bird. How sick. How sick. If you have to rewind and take notes, do so, because this is important. This going to shake up the Kemetic teachings. Now check this out, right? I ain't got to keep on reading it. You hear this? You hear this? The Bennu bird was said to have burst forth in a shower of radiant light from the heart of the first god. This is what you're looking at here. It's another version of the same sick story. So now you got bestiality and you got homosexuality. Now let's move on. So this is the same first god who ejaculated into his own mouth to utter the words of creation at the moment of Septepi, the creation moment. See, for them to create the cosmos, it had to be some gay stuff that happened, because they got rid of the womb. This is the same first god who ejaculated into his own mouth. Come on, man. Man, you know that ain't, come on now. Y'all know, come on now. I ain't even got to talk about that. Let me just move on. But let me show you the visual real quick to what they talking about. Remember, we went over this yesterday. I'm not going to keep going over it because I want to rush through this phallus talk, man. I can't do too much of it. I'm going to shoot through it, but we need this knowledge, though, because you may be debating a Kemetic scholar and you can kill them with this. So check it out. You see Geb? Geb is another form of Narmer. This is another form of Narmer. These are the many forms of Narmer having sex with himself because he got rid of his goddess. Why don't y'all open y'all mind and think and ask questions? The God of the Bible don't got a woman. Did the God of the Bible have a woman? So if the God of the Bible didn't have a wife or a mother, how did he come into being? When I used to ask my pastor how God came into being, my pastor used to tell me God always been. God made himself come into being. That's what a lot of pastors gonna tell you. And where did they get that theology from? Right here what I'm reading to you. These first sick homosexual male gods just had to abracadabra themselves into existence in these mysterious ways because they got rid of the womb. If they would simply have a womb in their mythology, they wouldn't have to do all of this sick stuff like nothing in their own mouth and all of that crap. You see what I'm saying, people? This is deep stuff I'm giving you. These male gods had to just abracadabra their damn self out of thin air into existence. This is pseudoscience. We all come from a womb. But since they was hiding the womb during this time, this is what you get. Sick stories and art like this with men with their own cock in their mouth, because you got to put it somewhere. You took away the womb, so since you ain't got no womb now, where you gonna stick it? They had to get creative. Hey, stick it in his own mouth. Hey, stick it in a bird. Stick it in a chicken. Stick it anywhere but the womb of a woman. That's how sick these folks is. And women, this how much they hate you. This is how they got rid of you women out of mythology. Why won't they give this man a woman like all of us normal folks? In one story, they give him a bird. In the next story, they give him a gay man bird who was born out of his nut, out of him skeeting in his mouth. How about we quit all of these crazy sick stories and just get a man a woman the natural way? You see what I'm doing, people? I'm trying to wake you up and show you how this corruption started right here with this first God who all of these folks worshiping today. Now let's keep on with this story now. One thing I gotta do before I go any further is something that I like to do every show, is get a mic check. To the people in the chat room, can I get a flat power if my audio is good? And then when you give me that, I'm gonna continue. Hopefully we can get out of here quick today and I don't have to take too much of your time. How about a flat power if my audio is good and clear? Thank you, guys. I'm going to keep it going. So let's continue. So we read this sick story about this Bennu bird. Let's read some more. All right. Where was I with this sick story? Where was I with it? Right here. All right. So this is the same first God who ejaculated into his own mouth to utter the words of creation at the moment of Sep. And I just showed you the picture of Geb, which is another form of this story. All right. So other versions say he ejaculated in great arcs, which created all the other deities and the entire universe. So the stories that predate this say that everything was simply born from a great womb, which makes perfect sense because womb is equivalent to the word darkness. And when you look up at the night sky, that's the Most High, the darkness. We know for a fact every night we got to go to darkness to go to sleep, and that we come from darkness, and that when we die, we going to go to Reaper. The Reaper, all right, is another word for repair. This dark reaper is nothing to be scared of. We go to the darkness to repair ourselves. So the word reaper is the word repair. Every day throughout the day, the stress that you put on your body, you go every night to sleep to reset and rest. And you go to darkness, which the ancestors call the reaper or the repair. And you repair yourself in darkness. Every day you do it. You go to darkness and you repair yourself. And the deep thing about it, nobody is thankful for that. People thankful for water. People thankful for food. People thankful for the wind that the Most High gave them to breathe. All right. People thankful for the sunlight. But no one is thankful for darkness. Every time people talk about darkness, it's something evil, when really darkness is the primordial element that gave birth to everything you see. But they lied to you and told you that a dude semen all over the place gave birth to everything you see. And today that became the modern Big Bang theory. Okay. Now let's keep this going. So, all right, it said in mid-October, a few days after visiting the sacred shrine of Phoenix in Heliopolis, Hadrian and Antinous visited Oxyrhynchus and heard of the fabled phallus of Osiris. And a couple of weeks later, Hadrian cradled the limp body of Antinous on the shores of the Nile. The body was limp like a marionette whose strings had been cut. Hadrian wept like a woman and refused to accept oblivion for his beloved boy. We're reading gay poetry right now, in case you guys are still not aware. But stay with me, just cringe and let's keep moving. To each his own. All right, but let's keep going with this because this is a part of our history. So instead, he proclaimed Antinous a god and set about making sure that the religions of Antinous took root and blossomed. So here we're saying that this man was in love with this sick mythological story. He was in love with his what they call beloved boy, and that he vowed to make sure that the religion of Antinous take root and blossom, to carry out this homosexual ideology. And here we are today. So these were powerful men. I just told you Hadrian and all of the guys we reading about were very powerful men of this time. And they vowed to perpetuate this unnatural ideology. And we're talking about some of your best psychologists of the time, some of your best poets and theologies. So don't think that these was just some dummies. They snuck this sick lifestyle in our spirits and ideology via history and myth, making you accept stuff subconsciously you don't even know you accept it. Now, let's keep reading. So the obelisk of Antinous speaks of, and we know that the obelisk of Antinous is basically the phallus of Narmer, okay? But there were so many variations of this story like we read that, hey man, everybody got one of these around the world. It's so many, but it's for the same guy, okay? Now this obelisk of Antinous speaks of Antinous being full of the semen of the first god. Hold on, hold up, wait a minute. My head hurt. When I was in church, right? I remember one of my best friends telling me one day, man, him, you know, I ain't gonna say his name. We were some little fast young men. And, you know, when you young and you coming up and you in the church trying to have control of your hormones, it's hard, man, because, you know, you young, you off the chain, you know, just feeling yourself. So you slip up a lot of times coming up as a young man. And you got to walk down that aisle on a Sunday morning. And you got to go up to the deacon. And he asks you what you want me to pray for you for. And you got to tell him, you know, man, you know, had sex with this girl. You got to tell him your business. And Lord Jesus, he had sex with a girl. You like, damn, everybody know now. But, you know, he praying for me. So, hey, it's a confession. Let me clean my robe. You know what I'm saying? Ain't that crazy, man? That's crazy. You know, he ain't telling you his damn confessions. So check this out. I bring that up to say that I remember my friend telling me one time in his guilt moment after we was, you know, horn and stuff as Christians that, man, when I get married, no matter what, I'm not putting nothing before God, man. Not my wife, not my children, not nothing go before the Lord. And if you think about that now that I'm awakened, that is the most homosexual thing that a man can say. Now, my friend wasn't gay. So keep in mind, man, when I'm talking about spiritual homos, you can be the toughest guy in the world and you don't swing that way. You may beat a guy up even thinking about, you know, coming at you like that. But spiritually, you may still be a homosexual. And that's the worst kind. Because these are the ones who will fight to keep patriarchy. Man, y'all niggas soft talking about the uterus, man. Nigga, you know, this is that wanna be hard mentality that perpetuates this new world order patriarchy, man. You know what I'm saying? So, let's read this because this is deep. This thing said an obelisk of Antinous speaks of Antinous being full of the semen of the first god. Now, man, would you want to be full of the semen of the first god? Would you like Brother Sanchez to fill you up with the semen of Osiris? My brother. Hey, I'm just joking, man. So listen, you may laugh and say, man, stop playing like that, Brother Sanchez. And it ain't okay for me to play like that, but it's okay for it to be in this spiritual myth. See, I want you to think about that. It ain't okay for me to play like that in real life, but it's okay for children and young comedic men and all of them to learn that this is okay in mythology. So again, spiritual homosexuality, spiritual unnatural acts. Now let me take a minute. We're going to finish this last passage off and we'll move to the next tab. But let me take just a second. Let me see who out here at my door. Okay, I'm back. We could continue. So now listen. Um, the obelisk of Antinous speaks of Antinous being full of the semen of the first god, which is the creative force of the universe. Prior to this, the great womb was the creative force of the universe. And a woman to even tell you that the womb does have contractions, I believe that's the right word. Meaning that the female womb is not the same all the time. The female womb is actually a living organism with a mind of its own, okay? And it behaves like, kind of like its own entity. It know how to cleanses itself. It know, like I said, contraption. Sometimes it's loose, sometimes it's tight, sometimes it's you know, different things of how it behaves. Talk to your woman. Okay? It's a little creature. And I'm just fucking with y'all. But yeah, that contraction, that tightening and loosening can be looked at low tide, high tide, inhale, exhale. So this is the creative force of the universe. The womb holds the secret. Studying the womb is studying the cosmos. We're going to go deep into that later. But so that this creative force of the universe was now hijacked and being personified by men. Okay, so that means Antinous can assume any form his heart desires, since he, like Osiris, is one with the first god and one with the Bennu bird. So listen to this sick story, because what we read, it actually happens in the occult. High-ranking secret society members have to drink the sperm of the higher-ranking guy that's initiating them into this cult. You got to swallow their sperm and be one with them. Now, there's rumors about a lot of your comedic teachers teaching this. There's rumors about a lot of cults recently that had this same theology. So you may think I'm making something up, but people teaching this like it's real. In Africa, there's a sick pastor who teaching this too, that his semen is some kind of cure. Pull it up on Google. It's a couple of guys out here teaching that nonsense. And the rappers be rapping like that too. Like, you know, let me skeet my intellect down your throat so you can be smarter. Shit like that. They make punchlines out of it. Like, you know, so we could become one, you know, swallow my cum and all of this. This is unnatural stuff. Okay? Now, we all have done it. You know, and like I said, we're going to be a little graphic here because this is the portion of the series and we all adult. But I'm showing you the history of our sexual behavior. All right. This guy was filled with the semen of the first god, and that made him become one with the first god. And because of that, he was able to assume any form his heart desired, meaning he can be a shapeshifter now. All right. By him drinking the cum of this first god, he can be a shapeshifter. So today in the Boule and a lot of secret societies, they do this. They drink each other's cum. They do it. And this Bennu bird we read about, and we see here this last line, Antinous is the phoenix. So again, the phoenix bird goddess predates Antinous. The phoenix bird goddess predates Antinous. Here's the phoenix bird goddess. See, Bennu bird that we just read about. This is the phoenix bird goddess. This is another form of Ma'at. An X-Men, okay? If you look at the cartoon X-Men, they got this phoenix. I think her name is Roll. The phoenix bird goddess with her arms raised. Because remember, I told you that the pre-dynastic goddesses, watch this. Go to Google, put in pre-dynastic goddess. Hold on. Go to Google, you put in pre-dynastic goddess. Here she go. This is the phoenix bird goddess. If you look at her face, this ain't a woman face. It's like a little bird face. And it's some beautiful art. Like when I look at this stuff and I think about the ancestors, it just make me want to hug them, man. Like they carved this joint, and whoever carved this, you know they had to have like a soft spirit to even be vibrating on this type of art, like to think of this. So you know that Nut is a sky goddess and the primordial goddesses were sky goddesses. So this was a sky goddess, meaning the goddesses that reign from heaven. These was the most high before the male patriarchs. So this is why this is a bird goddess, because it's a sky goddess. And sky goddess, either they blue like Nut or either they assume the form of a bird. So all of these deities are shapeshifters. They can assume animal forms. So this same bird goddess is the serpent goddess as well. Let me show you something. So you understand what shapeshifting is all about. So let me see if I can find this Aztec serpent goddess real quick. Oh man, I hope I can find this, because I don't want to take too long looking for it. Here, we'll just go with this one for now, just so I don't take too much of your time. Here go the serpent goddess. You can see how her arms raised. We know we always go over that. But it's the same goddess right here. So she can be in a serpent form and she can assume her bird form too. So all of these goddesses are shapeshifters. All right. And often you will see a bird on top of her head or some kind of animal that she can shift into that too. And they all can shift into the serpent. So just giving y'all a little knowledge. It's the same thing. The phoenix bird goddess is the same goddesses, all right, that I'm showing you. So where did we leave off at? Okay, yeah, that was the last one. So yeah, they told you that Antinous was the phoenix, and I'm telling you, no, he's not. When they tell you Antinous is the phoenix, that's like them telling you Jesus is the uterus. How can a man be the vagina? The position that the phoenix assumed is the position of the trident that they gave the devil, and also the uterus. All right. Now there's a game called GD who got all the symbolism of the goddess and they don't even know it. Their color is black because of the great womb, and they got the pitchfork, and then they got the 6-point Merkaba. They got all the symbols of the goddess. And I'm going to be breaking down GD symbolism for y'all. We're going to talk about gangs, and we're going to teach these gang members the history of their symbolism. So at least if they going to gangbang, they going to know how deep this shit go and have some respect for the goddesses that gave them their symbols. You know, maybe they'll fight about something that's a little bit more important in the street corners if we give them that. Okay, so maybe that's the answer to syncing together all of these groups. because everybody's symbols is of the goddess, but they using them against each other. When you tell all of these people they got the same symbols and what happened to these symbols, they gonna ride for what these symbols originally meant and sync back up together, putting the goddesses back on the throne. But anyway, let's keep going. So we see this, we understand what we're looking at. The female deities was the phoenix goddess before these male gods start personifying themselves as phoenix goddesses or phoenix gods. Okay, so again, like I told you in the previous video, this was the first time males started to personify the female sex organ. Now give me a minute, y'all, to get my door. Hey y'all, give me a couple minutes to let my people in the door and to do some things right quick. I'm gonna put a little music on and then I'll be back in like 5 minutes and we're gonna finish with this knowledge because we got a lot more to go over. So stay with me and let them know we ain't going nowhere. Okay, let's get back into the knowledge. Let's get back into it. Now I remember exactly where we left off. Just let this. I got a lot of traffic going on in the crib right now. My family just coming back from the drive-through movie. They went to see that scary movie, Quiet Place. That was a good one. But we finna crank it back up though. I'm just trying to let some of the background noise die down, man. It's a little crowded time right now. We'll start in just a second, guys. If you want to, you can go ahead and read over this. But we just was talking about the god Antinous, and that they said he is the phoenix. Remember, he personified the female uterus during his time. And because they took away the womb and replaced it with a man, he had to do all of these 6 sex acts to procreate. We already went over that 6 stuff. We're going to keep it moving. But we talked about the obelisk of Antinous. I brought that up in that last passage that we left off with before we moved on. And we talked about this obelisk of Antinous, and I told you there's many obelisks around the world. So my background noise gone, so I'm going to keep going, and we going to continue the knowledge right now. Let's get it. Here is the obelisk of Antinous. Just so y'all can look over it a minute. This is a real monument. All right, so let's just look at a couple of them. We know that they got these obelisks all over the place. But most people, when you ask them about the obelisk, they tell you Washington, D.C., Kemet, and that's it. I'm just showing you some more of them, and I'm showing you that this was a worldwide thing, man, of phallus worship, worshiping the phallus. When we talk about the succession of the first king, because now we go on from uterus worship and the matrilineal system to now slavery, a peasantry system. You ruled over by this phallus that you're looking at. All right, so this is the obelisk of Antinous that we're reading about. So yes, this is the penis of a man who they say is the first god. And they worship this thing. All over the earth. There's one at the Vatican. They're all over, man. A bunch of phalluses. So we live in a time of the homosexual ruler, the patriarch. And like I said, that time is approaching an end. So let's read about the temple of Antinous, the gay god, and the obelisk of Antinous. Let's go ahead and read this. We're going to read this. Let me see how much of it is it. Oh, wow. That's a lot to read. Oh, man. I don't know if I could take this much gay poetry. I may need to do a vote. Hey, let me get in the chat room for a minute. Listen, people, this poem, it's a long gay poem of these 2 gay lovers, right? And talking about how semen is being swapped and some of the crazy stuff we was talking about at first. Now, I can read this for y'all if y'all want. It's a long gay poem. But if you just want to skip this part, I'm going to get a vote in the chat room. I don't know I can read this much of it, man. If it was a little passage there, yeah. But I can put the link to this in the chat and people can read it on their own. So put a 1 and a flat power in the chat if I can skip this. Put a 2 if you want me to go and read this long gay lovers poem. Let me see who put a 2. I want to see who put a 2. We might get somebody put a 2. If I get 1, 2 in the chat, I'm going to read it all. If anybody put a 2, I'm going to read the whole thing. Y'all a trip out there, man. Y'all ass tripping. Huey P put a 1 2. Joe from Cali, Emily Strange 1. Saquon. Y'all tripping. You know I'm gonna skip that part. Hey, but look, I'm gonna say this though. I do want y'all to read it. I know y'all get the point that they was sick, but I want y'all to see how sick. I'm putting the link in the chat now. Go ahead, save this link and go and read this. Save it, because look, you may be debating a comedic cat. You may be debating a comedic cat. And if you pull this link up on him and go to showing him how all this shit what I'm showing you, he can't argue, man. He can't argue with it. Get that link. That's ammo. We're going to keep it moving. I ain't going to read it. We're gonna just keep it moving. He said, they put the ones out there quick. Said, no, bro, nope. We can't take too much of that. All right, so remember earlier I told y'all I had a ladder that this was a ladder from the Consul Servianus. Remember I was telling you about Servianus. Earlier I was telling you about, oh shit, man, I got something wrong earlier. Earlier I told you that Hadrian was an important man and he had connections to the emperor, and that the emperor was named Servianus. Well, I got it backwards. Hadrian is the emperor. Servianus was the consul who had to connect to Hadrian, who's the emperor. So if you with me been following through the video, taking notes, just keep that in mind. Hadrian was the emperor during that time. So Servianus was a political figure. Now we talking 134 AD right here. All right. This was way, all right. This was during the time where we was approaching like the Council of Nicaea and all of these councils dealing with this Serapis god. Now remember I told you Serapis was a form of Norma and Pan. So here go my proof for that. So the Emperor Hadrian, in a letter to the Consul Servianus in AD 134, asserts that the worshippers of the sun god Serapis in Egypt were Christians, and that these sun worshippers called themselves, quote unquote, bishops of Christ. Stop right there. Don't read no further. Let me show you something. Let me show you something. My bad. Let me show you something. I got to pull it back up though. Bishops of Christ, quote unquote. So these people who was worshiping Serapis also called themselves bishops of Christ. So these bishops of Christ went around with these little hats on. So I'm giving you visuals for what I'm saying. Remember, this would be, Norma was the first pope. So boom, why is the pope's hat shaped like a fish? You ought to know that by now. I just showed you earlier in the video that this fish is the one who swallowed the cock of Osiris. Remember, I told you that this fish swallowed the phallus of the first god, and that's what anointed him. So basically, we're just reading about the succession of kings. All right, so when one king finished ruling, he passed his succession to the next king, and they write about it in a mythological way. So instead of them saying, hey man, this king was ruling, and when his kingdom ended, the next king ruled, they said, no, he swallowed his phallus, and that gave him the power of the king before him. It's a sick homosexual way of passing the succession, because in a natural way, the succession would be passed with a man and woman having sex. And that child that would have been born would have inherited everything that the parents had. That's how naturally succession is passed. But when you're in a patriarchal world and succession is passed from king to king, they be skeeting in each other's throat. Become one with me, drink some of my blood, let me ejaculate in your mouth. You know, this fish god name was Dagon. and he get his power by swallowing a phallus. Do you hear me? We just read about it now. He get his power by swallowing, okay, a phallus semen of the first pharaoh. So he was the second one to rise to power after Noah. But they all had the same title. This is why when we talk about the first king, it's still the Pope today. It's today's Pope as well. Okay? Because they just keep passing the succession. And when you read about this fish swallowing this phallus, this fish was the next Pope, the next ruler. Okay? All right? You following me? So him swallowing the phallus of the last ruler was basically me putting on his crown. Instead of saying, hey man, the last president moved out of the White House and gave me the bedroom and turned the White House over to me. They saying no, he swallowed his phallus and gained his power, because they telling you how the succession of power was changed in a homosexual way, because this is just where they psyches was. We talking sick people who was writing this shit. You had to be sick to get rid of the womb in the first place. The moment they got rid of the womb, couldn't be nothing but sick stories after that. Men ejaculating in their own mouth and stuff to create, the cosmos. Because now the mythologies are corrupted when you take away the womb. And that's what we got to get back to. So these bishops of Christ is who you looking at now, who the Council Servianus was complaining about these bishops going around worshiping Serapis. Let's read. The Emperor Hadrian in the letter to the Council Servianus asserts that the worshippers of the sun god Serapis in Egypt were Christians, and that these sun worshippers called themselves bishops of Christ. So before Jesus existed, you had people who was worshiping Christ. That ought to make you think. That ought to make you think. Here you go right here. Let me help you out. Here's Jesus Christ on the right. Here's Serapis Christus on the left. Don't they both look the same? This the same sun god Norma being recreated over and over and over again for different generations. And every generation, it's a man like me telling y'all, stop worshiping the king. He ain't the God for real. It's a man. It's the Pope. But people so attached to this image. They so attached to it. So let's read more about these bishops of Christ that was stirring up ruckus in Egypt during this time. So the worship of Serapis was imported into Egypt from Pontus, a province bordering on Bithynia. The Christians mentioned by Pliny the Younger were in all probability worshippers of Serapis. All of you Christians today, you're worshippers of Serapis. So Hadrian says further that there are none of these rulers of Jewish synagogues, Samaritans, and presbyters who is not either an astrologer or a soothsayer or a minister to obscene pleasures. Stop and read. Why do y'all think Brother Sanchez got a beef with astrology? People, astrology is pseudoscience. I hate to break your heart. If you've been following my streams, I've been debating astrologers and they ain't been able to win. If you're an astrologer or somebody who think astrology is not pseudoscience, email me for a debate. Astrology is pseudoscience, is not necessary, and it just perpetuates Gregorianism. Astrology was created because of something called personification. People personifying them stars in the sky and the sun and the moon as people. So astrology is an offshoot of astrotheology. They both got the root word astro. Okay? But this is what you got to realize about astrotheology and astrology. They all centered around a 365-day calendar that was manipulated by these deceivers and Pope Gregory. You using symbols on your natal charts that was created by homosexual men. So when you read people their natal charts, you're deciphering who they are through the lenses of sick men. When you, excuse me, when you say stuff like, you got Saturn in your third house, and Saturn is the devil. Saturn is wicked. Saturn gonna fuck you up because Saturn in your fourth house. That means you ain't gonna pay your bills on time. That's stupid crap. The reason astrology is dumb talk is because the people who giving you astrology ain't giving you your signs in all cultures. They only giving you your signs based on what the Greeks called the signs. So when the Greeks talked about certain signs that was associated with the goddess, they linked negativity to them. All of the signs prior to this 365-day calendar was everything that was said about them was neutral. You can make it positive or negative, but it wasn't well, this one is negative, that one positive. That ain't telling you nothing about you by being biased to things in nature. How can a fucking star be negative? These astrologers will look up in the sky and tell you, you see that star? That's a good star. If that one in your second house, you're going to be rich. But you see that star over there? That one will fuck your chart up and you will be... Man, that's dumb talk. And they reading your charts and all this astrology is based on signs that got their names from deceivers. Remember that the ancient calendars had 360 days and they didn't have months like July and August. So if you giving somebody a natal chart reading who was born in July, you already fucking up. Ain't no month called July. You ain't giving them a real reading. They weren't born in no damn July. You got to find out what month that really is. We got to do this the right way and quit playing with it. So we ain't even the right age that you think you are. You younger than what you think you are. Because the time is crazy. Only 360 days in a year. So how old are you? 2 months don't even supposed to be there. It's 10 months. So how old are you? You don't even know. But somebody giving you your natal chart reading. Somebody can tell you everything about yourself but can't help themselves. So this ain't a form. The way we do astrology today is pseudoscience. And what I'm reading to you right now showing you is just another offshoot of Christianity and astrotheology. Back in the day, you had these same pseudoscientists walking around Egypt calling themselves bishops of Christ, talking about, let me give you a natal chart reading. What's your sign? You're a Capricorn. Don't you date with no Libras. Y'all are going to break up. Crazy stuff like that. You had it going on right here. Hadrian says further that there are none of these rulers of Jewish synagogues, Samaritans, and presbyters who is not either an astrologer, a soothsayer, or a minister to obscene pleasures. All of these guys talking about I'm reading your chart and all this, still promoting all the New World Order stuff. They'll turn around in the next video and tell you homosexuality is natural. They'll turn around in the video and tell you a bunch of stuff trying to sell it to you, which you know you ain't natural. But they'll try to make it natural. Then say, let me read your chart. Give me your palm. See, all of this pseudoscience, these magicians like that, these Neil deGrasse Tysons and Cleo the Psychics, you're reading right now that it go all the way back right here. This was in AD 134. Now it go on and saying, though they proclaim allegiance to either Serapis or Christ, their only real God is money. Stop and let me get a flat motherfucking power. Don't this sound familiar? I ain't gonna mention no names. Look at the conscious community right now. You got a bunch of damn scam artists scamming people with sovereignty papers, scamming people with all these natal chart readers and charging them for consultations and doing all this soothsaying and promoting the same. They don't want to say nothing against the government because most of them got 501c. So they promoting the same New World Order agendas. All right, reading these natal charts, calling themselves astrologers, telling you they know all this, they can predict shit, they decode this and doing all that. And at the end of the day, they religious. They still pledging their allegiance to either Serapis or Christ, which is the same God. But during this time when they was recreating Christ from Serapis, you had both of them existing together. So when they finally got through with Christ, then everybody abandoned Serapis and it was now Jesus Christ. But look at what it say. It's telling you the character of these men and say that they worship all of these gods, but they only real God is money. That's important because on your money, it say in God we trust. And on your money is the president, which is carrying the succession. Each president is part of the royal family. And the money is rectangular, just like the flag that you pledge of allegiance to. The money shaped like your coffin, just like the Bible that you put your hand on and take an oath. All of this is symbolism dealing with the death of this God who we call him Jesus. So you putting your hand on that Bible, in God we trust, on that rectangular Bible, on that rectangular dollar. In God we trust, you putting your hand on the casket of Christ or Norma, and you swearing to God. That's what we used to do as children. If we told one, if you thought one of your friends was lying, you would say, man, swear to God. And he wouldn't swear to God if he was lying back in them days. Now, some people today, they'll swear to God and they still be lying because they know this shit is all mythology and stuff. But back in them days, man, if somebody said, hey, you for real swear to God, you would not swear to God if you know you was lying. So, think about what happened in the courtroom. They say, put your hand on this Bible so we know you ain't lying now. So we know you ain't gonna lie. So when you put your hand on the Bible, you swearing to God. But who is God? Norma, Christ, Serapis, Menes, Pan, all of the God of the New World Order, the Pope right now. And another form of him would be the president. They got different versions of a male ruler to sell you your cup of tea. You may not get jiggy to Trump as a male figure of power, but most people respect the Pope. Why? Because most of your popes are old men. What you got, see, our political system is arranged just like the biblical Trinity. Father, Son, Holy Ghost. The president would be the son. The Pope is always the father. And if you look at how the president react around the Pope, they showing you that. The president kisses the father's hand. The Pope is called Abba. He's the father. So when they talk about the Lord in heaven and not Jesus, they talking about the Pope. The president would be Christ. So all of these male figures in power had a title that can be synonymous with a religious title. Because back in the day, all of these male figures in power would have been part of the religious order, which was the political order as well. Wasn't no government. It was just the church. And what I'm showing you with this series is how it's the same way. It's still no government. It's just the church. The government selling you the same thing that the Vatican selling you, that Darwin was selling you, that the first doctrines that came up out of this Greco-Egyptian civilization was selling you. So the only real God is money, and they tell you that in God we trust. On their money is Novus Ordo Seclorum, New World Order, and the pyramid. Okay? So on that money, You can look at your money and you can start from $1 bill and work your way all the way up to 100 and pretty much go through a timeline of presidency on these bills, which themselves is in a way tracking succession. The only real God is money. That's what they rule us with. That's what sustains the system. The money is traded for natural goods. But what happens is for the man to put himself in between you and nature, instead of you just going to get it off the damn tree, so here's how it works. When you get hungry, you don't say, let me go and get an apple. Let me go and get some fruit off this tree. Let me go out here and get something to eat. You say, let me get some money and go and buy something to eat. So there's something in between you and just that which sustains you. When you get thirsty and you say, I want some water, you say, where my wallet at? Let me go and, buy some water. Water ain't free. All right. Now, unless you drinking tap water, who drinks that? So what I'm saying is you look at the money like the natural resource when it's just used to gain the natural resource. And when that happens, people will value the money more than the natural resource. Think about what I'm telling you. You had people during storms and hurricanes breaking in stores, getting bullshit instead of natural resources, getting shit they can sell and flip to get money. So what I'm saying is, like, if you told the average youngin today, hey man, would you rather have $1 million or 1,000,000 acres of land? That stupid youngin will tell you, give me the $1 million. And he don't know that 1,000,000 acres of land is worth billions of dollars. Because we dumb down. We value the money more than the natural resources. And the people that rule over us, they know you dumb like that. So they rule you by holding on to the natural resources and keep printing the worthless ass money for you to work for. And whenever you need natural resources and you get hungry, you got to get the money and go and get it from them because they own all the farms and the shit you really need. You don't really need the damn money. You really need the shit that you buy with the money to sustain yourself. So again, if you ask the average young dummy out here, who listen to all the dumb shit today and all like that, would you rather have 1,000,000 acres of land, young man? Or would you have $1 million? You know what he'll say? On me, nigga, shit, nigga. Give me that $1 million, nigga, shit. You crazy, nigga. Fuck that land, nigga. You better give me that million, shit, nigga. Fuck that land. Give me that million, my nigga. I'm finna go get Gucci out. Gucci gang, Gucci gang, Gucci gang, Gucci gang. You dumbass. You gave up 1,000,000 acres for Gucci because we don't know the value of natural resources. You think you value the money more than the shit it was made out of, man. If you had a motherfucking 1,000,000 trees, you can make $1 billion. So you ask a motherfucker, would you rather have $1 million or 1,000,000 trees? They'll say, what the fuck I'm gonna do with 1,000,000 trees, nigga? Give me that $1 million. Fool, 1,000,000 trees will make you $1 billion. So they don't using the natural resources because they got you valuing the damn money when it ain't worth shit for real. If you own a few acres of land, your money would literally grow on trees. Meaning you can start a farm, start whatever you want with that land, and your money would be growing right out the ground. And you wouldn't have to work for money because your land will work for you. So the people who rule this world own millions of acres of land, y'all. Millions of acres. You think Queen Elizabeth got a bank account? Are you that stupid? Do you think Queen Elizabeth got a wallet with some damn dollars in it? Are you that dumb? I want to know if it's somebody out there that dumb. These folks don't touch no damn money. They print the money. These folks own the goddamn land and the trees that make your money. It ain't about money to them. It's about resources. They tearing down the trees on their fucking acres of land to print y'all slaves money. They ain't using money. It's all about resources to them. So open up your mind and listen to what I'm trying to tell you here. Now let's move on with the rest of this stuff because we got to get up out of here. I'm going to stop with all of this homosexual talk, man, because we all know Egypt and the pharaohs and all of that crap. They was fruited, man. So I'm going to save a couple of these links. I don't got to really beat that horse, too tough. We went over a lot of stuff. I think you get the point. We know that Sodom and Gomorrah is Egypt and Greece. I'll be going over some of these tabs in the future, making some videos out of them. But I don't think it'll be necessary to keep going over the homosexuality on this one. Let's talk more about royal succession because we already know the homosexuality was there. Now, but what I want to talk about is the sickness of the mythology, the sperm, the ejaculation. Why men put themselves above women is a spiritual thing because the man think that his sperm is the egg. And I went over yesterday how that's stupid. When the man started believing that he carried the egg in his testes, he started to ejaculate in his own mouth to impregnate himself to give birth. I bullshit you not. I just went over that with you and showed you the graphic pictures of that sick mythology and how these males was having to use their own sperm on themselves and animals when they replaced the womb. Because the womb holds the eggs. The female holds the eggs. Now, when you get rid of her out of the myth, and you put the eggs on the male, sick kind of stuff have to take place. Sick stories, out of those kind of myths. So this is another article I put up about the history of sperm and ejaculation in mythology, and it's very, very interesting. But it's one of those graphic ones that it's kind of like listening to gay porn. Like if I was to read this to you, it'd be like gay porn in spiritual mythology. Talking about the god Enki and Brahma. We're gonna talk about them though, because this is part of the myth that we really need to, this is part of our history. So let's go ahead and get into it. A history of male orgasm and masturbation because attitudes towards sperm should have changed. Now you can see this man right here. In this bucket is the sperm of the first god, Nomer, which is said to give you so many abilities like we read previously. One guy said when he drank the cum of the first god, he was able to shapeshift. You can see this guy right here with a bowl filling up another bowl of sperm, which is being poured out of a jar. So this is disgusting stuff. So let's go ahead and read a little bit. Sperm, orgasm, and their role in everything from fertility to myth have had a huge role in many societies. Of course they have. The ancient Mesopotamian god Enki, any man that named themselves after this god is suspect. The ancient Mesopotamian god Enki, literally the Lord of Semen. Listen, y'all. The name Enki means the Lord of Semen. So any man who you hear name himself Enki, get the hell away from their gay ass. All right? So the ancient Mesopotamian god Enki literally means the Lord of Semen, was seen as the source of water, plants, and other gods via his emissions. And if you don't know, emissions mean ejaculations, coming, nutting. The ancient Mesopotamia said basically Enki masturbates, and when he come, he give birth to like the water, the sky. All of us was made out of a man masturbating, basically. This is a sick story. And why would you have to create the cosmos out of a man masturbating? Because you got rid of the womb. Now, this is real shit. Hey, if your wife take a vacation, you might touch yourself a few nights because the womb is gone. But if it was there, you wouldn't do that. I'm just saying, keep it real. All I'm saying is, if you remove the womb, your mythology is going to be sick. Your spiritual system going to be sick. It's going to be none balanced. So this Mesopotamian god Enki gave birth to the cosmos by jacking off. That's crazy. Maybe that's why they call it masturbation. I mean, he was the master. You know, he was a god. He was the master. Maybe that's why they call it masturbation. You know, he jacked off and gave birth to the cosmos. And his name means the Lord of Semen. So you got guys walking around full of ego, thinking they motherfucking holier than thou, thinking chicks should be grateful to let them skeet on their face. Nut in your mouth. This is sick, man, because they was doing it man on man. The guy said if you drink the sperm of the first male pharaoh, you get all kind of powers. And this is what Christ is saying. He's saying if you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you'll live forever. He just said if you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you'll live forever. They call it Passover. Communion, I mean communion. So if you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you'll drink my sperm. Quit lying. If I cut a piece of my skin off and you eat it, and I bleed in a fucking cup and you drink it, if I nut in a cup, you'll drink it. What'll stop you from doing that one? In fact, the first two is more dangerous than the sperm, the blood, and the skin. So what we're talking about is consuming the bodily fluids from another man, all right, for empowerment. And no matter how you put it, it's homosexuality. Whether you eat my flesh and drink my blood, or if you just drink my cum for empowerment. Either one, you're sick. Why are you drinking another man's flesh and eating another man's skin, or drinking listen, keep your fluids and your DNA over there, and I'm gonna keep mine over here, because the exchanging of DNA only supposed to happen between male and female lovers to create another child. But when you get all of these sick mythologies that took away the womb, you got these different males exchanging their DNA in sick ways to keep this royal succession in this kingdom coming. So when they talk about kingdom come, they ain't talking about kingdom COME. They talking about kingdom CUM, kingdom come. This is a kingdom of men passing down their royal succession by nutting in each other's mouths and drinking each other's blood to pass on the royal succession in mythology. And it's very sick, because what we read in mythology is actually what they play out in closed doors in these occult practices in these secret societies, in these lodges and stuff, on a big level, when they having changes of succession and different deep stuff like that. Yes, sir. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So again, these gods was able to shapeshift if they drink the cum of the first God. Just like you see these two here assuming the shape together they sharing the body of a lion, and they got different animals. This is shape shifting. So let's read some more. So this God Enki means the Lord of semen. He was seen as the source of water, plants, and other gods via his ejaculations or emissions, while the Indian creator god Brahma formed himself out of his own semen and went on to create the world. So Brahma is another name of Abraham. The name Brahma became the Christians' Abraham. So Brahma is the Abrahamic, it's the name of Abraham in the Middle East. So what I'm doing now is I'm showing you how all around the world people worshiping the phallus of Norma under different names. The New World Order happened 7,000 years ago, and there was one God, one world ruler that was called different names and had different stories, just like we're going over now. So Brahma is just another form of Nama for the Hindus. And Brahma became Abraham for the Christians. And they formed themselves out of their own semen. Abraham was one of the anointed men of God that carried on the succession. Was called a father of Christianity. Him and Moses and a lot of more carried the succession. So you get the genealogy of Abraham in the Bible. You get the genealogy of Moses and a lot of more anointed men. And that these guys like Moses and all of these guys were real pharaohs who was ruling. Let me show you what I'm talking about real quick before we move on. Here's the Christian Moses. And you can see in his hand is the law. Why? Because this Moses was a real pharaoh who was ruling, keeping the law during the time in this Greco-Egyptian time when the church was the government. Now here's the actual picture of that pharaoh. So Christians don't know they worshiping a real dude who was just a evil ass governor. This is Tutmosis, and there's Tutmosis, many Tutmosis, because he passed his succession down. He was one of those royal families. His succession was passed down. So you got Tutmosis the first, Tutmosis the second, Tutmosis the third, and so on and so on. Again, the Bible is a book of royal lineage. Okay? So one of the people that ruled during the time of this Greco-Egyptian time was the Pharaoh Tutmosis, and they wrote about him all over the world. One of the stories that we read about Tutmosis in was the Bible, right here. So this real dude became a mythological creature in this book called the Bible, and they painted him white. This is why the blacks be arguing with the whites like, hey man, Moses was really black. Why y'all got him white? Well, hey, there was a Greek version and an African version because you had the Greeks and Egyptians ruling together. So when we talk about Thutmose ruling, he didn't rule alone. There was always a Greek pharaoh and Egyptian pharaoh. There was a unification. So if you look up pictures of Thutmose, you'll see him in different forms. He don't always look the same, you know. So they're going to always argue about what he looked like because, you know, people identified all of these rulers in their own culture. Just like I showed you, people in the Eastern world identify him as Brahma and many other names in different time frames, but it's just a different ruler at a different time who part of the same family. So that's why I say it's the same man, because it's the same bloodline. If I die and my son keep ruling, but he keep my name, the generations in the future think this same man lived that long. And they'll be like, see, people back then lived for hundreds and hundreds of years. No, they didn't. Their kingdoms lasted for hundreds of years. Now, I do think in pre-dynastic time, people lived for hundreds and hundreds of years when the earth was natural. but not during this time, you know. But let's move on. You see, he carried the law. And that's what Moses represent. You'll see those two pillars everywhere. You know, you'll see him here wearing them on his head. Again, Hathor wore two horns. You know, you'll see that duat everywhere. Here you got some going on, some giving offers. But again, you know, two wings of Ma'at, two scales. But anyway, that's the law. That's the law. All right. So it became Moses with the commandments. You know, when really the Pharaoh gave the law out of his mouth and you had to listen, man. The Pharaoh ruled with brute force. You can be punished by death. So when the Pharaoh spoke, you listen. So when the Pharaoh gave a commandment, you listen to the commandment. The word commandment has the root word ko, dealing with two, like companionship, cooperation, all right, or corporation is dealing with two. So the 10 Commandments is two pillars because the commandments was given by the two kings. The Dalai Lama gives the commandments for the Eastern world and the Pope gives them for the Western world, but they don't give them alone. They got a council of families who give down the law or the commandments. And this what create government. The president just a puppet. So you got two sets of laws and two worlds, East world and West world, but they still given to you by the same source, which is Moses or Tutmosis or the Pharaoh. Okay. So it's a double-headed dragon, but it's the same old scheme. All right. Let's wrap this up because I got to get up out of here, and I know y'all do too. I don't want to be repetitive. So let me move on. Brahma formed himself out of his own semen and went on to create the world. But beyond creation, the male orgasm has had a lot of other roles, and it hasn't always been a smooth ride. So in case you listen here. I don't want to get too graphic with this. Semen and ejaculation are actually a strong part of ancient Egyptian god myths. Of course, we know that by now. There's an extended episode in which Set and Horus, two male gods, have what's essentially a semen battle. Listen, hey, I don't want to read no more of this semen battle shit. I think we get the point of how sick this comedic shit was. I'm going to have to do another vote. Hey, I'm going to have to do another vote, man. So now I'm looking at the chat room, right? If your boy can skip this semen battles and all of this next part, let me get a flat power and a number one. But if you want me to read it and we can read some more of how sick their mythologies was, then we can read some more sperm fights and ejaculation semen battles. But if you tired of that joint, man, and you ready to just move on, put me a one out there and a flat power. Because I'm trying to skip. We read enough of all of this swallowing the cocks and the semen. And basically, I'm just beating a dead horse here. I think y'all get the point. So let me just, thank y'all, man, for that. Flat power, they gave me a one. So let me move on, man. Hey, shout out to the boy, man. Hey, Flat Power, thank you for that donation. I'm gonna actually read all of the donations again after the show. That's what I'm gonna do. And after this stream, we're gonna open them panels back up, baby. So if we don't do an open panel tonight, don't worry. In the morning, tomorrow, it's going down on this Saturday. Ain't nobody doing that. We're going to be chopping it up if y'all want to do it. So for those who want to attend, we will crank it up. Let's skip that, man, because we get the point. More ancient Egyptian sexuality. And let me see what we got here. Ancient Egyptian sexuality. We talked about the god men. Y'all, I think we about finished. All of this is just like overview. me'll be, if I read all of this, it'll just be me repeating myself. I think we pretty much get it. I will go over this, but I'll just make a video and upload it. I don't think it's worth me keeping you here on a live stream. We get the point. The Ptolemies and the Kemetic pharaohs, it was a Greco-Egyptian ruler. Remember, Geb became identified with the Greek god Kronos. So remember when I showed you Geb nutting in his own mouth? Yeah, that's a form of Narmer. He was a form of Narmer. Geb hath refreshed me and caused me to ascend to his throne. See, in this thing right here, it's talking about how Geb used his semen to pass his succession to the next heir of the throne. So you can see the next pharaoh, which was, we'll go over this one day. But it don't matter who it was. What I'm going to point out to you is the change of succession. If you look at this god Geb here, he got that Bennu bird on his head. Remember that gay bird that we read about earlier? The homosexual bird? The Bennu bird, Geb got it on top of his head right here. So it's the same story in the book of the dead, right? Because we talking about resurrection, rise, erection. The Pharaoh says, I'm decreed to be hair. It's the book of the dead because we talking about the end of a kingdom. One Pharaoh's kingdom is ending and another kingdom is beginning. So it's death for one pharaoh and life for the next one. This is called resurrection. But since you don't have a woman to play a role in the succession, you got men fucking each other, passing the royal succession along. It's that simple, okay? So in this one, when the pharaoh was decreed to be the next heir to the throne, the Lord of the earth of Geb, all right? So Geb refreshed him. He have a union with women. Geb have refreshed me and he have caused me to ascend to his throne. But now in this whole ceremony, it's a gay ceremony, of Geb basically, anointing him with that semen. So when you go to church today and they put virgin oil on you, the virgin oil is the semen of Narmer symbolically. Because when we talk about the virgin, we're not talking about the Virgin Mary. We're talking about the virgin birth of Narmer. Remember what I told you? These sick male gods got rid of the womb so they couldn't be born of a woman when they got rid of the goddesses, which is the foundation of life. So when they got rid of the goddesses, they just start appearing out of thin air and birthing themselves with their own semen and birthing the world with their masturbation and sick stuff like that. So that's a virgin birth coming from a male, okay? When they tell you the God of the Bible created the cosmos, that's virgin birth. He gave birth to the cosmos out of his womb. He couldn't have created the cosmos with his hands because hands weren't created till humans was created. Did the God of the Bible have hands? Or was everything just manipulated because the Most High is everywhere and all around you? So the cosmos being born out of darkness, the darkness represent the womb. But when you replace that womb with a man, it's being born out of ejaculations and, big bangs and, sick stuff like what we just read. This is a virgin birth from a man. This is why he have an erection. He gave birth to the world, all right, out of his phallus. But prior to that, like I said, the great mother, the womb, gave birth. So the man now was a virgin who personified himself as a vagina. And he was a virgin now. So they got rid of the Virgin Mary and the goddesses, the virgin, the great mothers who gave birth to it all. and now you got men giving birth. You got gods like Zeus giving birth out of their head, like I went over in the previous video and stuff like that. So yeah, what we read in this story is the same thing. Now, let me make sure that this wraps everything up. So yeah, that's why they had to have these semen battles and all of that. It's basically a sword fight. Two cocks together. That's what it is. When they say semen battle, that's what it is. All right? Because when you get rid of the womb and you got a bunch of men passing down a succession, ain't no women involved. You got another man up here in the place of Ma'at, you see, spreading his arm like Ma'at, and all of these are male, shape-shifting, homosexual gods. All right, so when you replace the womb with all of these males, this is the first triple phallus. This is Father, Son, Holy Ghost, no woman. This is an unnatural trinity, people. So this, what you're looking at, eventually just became this triple phallus symbol. Three cocks, Father, Son, Holy Ghost, no womb. They telling you this what created the cosmos. This is the trinity of life. And look, even got the woman coming second, being birthed from the three cocks. Just like I showed you, Adam gave birth to his wife. Zeus gave birth out of his head. And this was a real spirituality. You can see this carved in the wall. So these three phalluses ain't nothing new. We looking at it here in Europe, and you're looking at it here in Egypt. Three phalluses. All right. It's the same thing. All of this sick stuff, this semen battles that we've been reading about, is sick, man. And we need to go over it. We need to go over it. So I will be going deeper into the triple phalluses, homosexuality and Kemet, more on the God man and the God Gab, nothing in his own mouth, how we come from Herstory to Hisstory to get to be in this male patriarchal New World Order. Trust me, we'll go deeper into it. Today was just something to carry over from the previous stream. And the next one, I guess we'll do a part 5 to this, which will be the final one. But I won't do it live. I'm going to take the stuff that we didn't touch on today because y'all let me skip it. Thank God y'all let me skip it. But I ain't going to let you run from it. I will be uploading it. We got to go over it. But I gave you a break today. All right, so yeah, we needed a break, man. You can't do too much of semen talk on one video. Okay, 2 hours is enough. So we'll do another one. We'll do this shit in portions. But when we pass this part, you know, that'll be out the way and we can keep it moving. But we got to get over this part. We got to get over the hump. I shouldn't say that because when you look at these pictures with this man that got this hump in his pants, I shouldn't say stuff like we got to get over the hump, you know, looking at this shit. Let me, you know what? Let me get the hell up out of here, man. Hey, this was a good stream. I'm going to edit these. They'll be available edited on Bro Sanchez TV. Is going to continue the Hisstory series. And I just appreciate y'all for tuning in, man. You know, on a Friday night, 1 o'clock in the morning, over 100 people watching. You know, the number may not be big to a lot of people, but every last 157 of y'all, I love you. Much motherfucking love. You up with me on a Friday night, man, that mean a lot to me. And to the people that gave super chat donations, I really appreciate y'all. You didn't have to do it, but you did it. And I really appreciate you to let me know you appreciate my time. So I'm going to continue to do this longest breath in my lungs. So let me give a shout out to NASA CGI Snakes, Flat Motherfucking Power. Let me give a shout out to Bob Marley. And another shout out to NASA CGI Snakes was just hitting me up all night. My brother says only one brother Sanchez. That's right. And I don't say that cocky. It's only one of each and every last one of you. And you know what? I really appreciate y'all. You know. Flat motherfucking power to NASA CGI Snakes, man. And another flat power to my brother Bob Marley. And flatter chord music, man. Flat motherfucking power to you, my brother. Said, hoping to start some dono action. This man works hard to bring us so much knowledge, respect, and support. Man, I love you, my brother. Flatter chord music. You know, your avatar name translates to fam, and you know you part of this family. You know, keep that in mind. FAM, flatter chord music, baby. And shout out to my brother, the boy. And you know, y'all gonna be hearing from the boy on the next open panel. I can guarantee you he'll be on there to drop some jewels. Shout out to my brother, man, because the brother be support me faithfully. And not only just monetarily, but he put in a lot of time on these panels, dropping jewels, you know. And I just want to acknowledge that. So shout out to the boy, man, Flat Power. And shout out to my sister Emily Strange. She said, like a fool. and you know, Emily became a mod the other day. She been around. I'm glad somebody was like, yeah, man, you should throw Emily a wrench. I was like, yeah, I saw her in there holding it down. If you ain't got a wrench, don't worry. You know, the people that got wrenches will tell you, you will get one. Stick around. Stay loyal to the family. You know, and yeah, everybody gonna have blue wrenches. You know, one thing about this, what we do over here, it ain't like no other flat earth movement or channel. It ain't like nothing else, and it ain't that we be being divisive. Flat Power is a group of people who know the earth is flat, but they want to be empowered from the knowledge. It ain't enough to know that it's flat. If the knowledge don't empower you, it ain't knowledge. It's just another indoctrinating snare to hinder you. And the truth can become a form of indoctrination. You can find out the earth is flat, and just because you know it's flat and that's a fact, you can make that repetitive to the point where it becomes a doctrine and no longer the truth that will free us because you didn't take it to the next level. You were satisfied just because you found out it was flat and you didn't want to know no more. You thought it was all over. That ain't what flat power is. You see, when you get knowledge, knowledge is supposed to bring you power. Knowledge is power. So if flat earth is valuable knowledge, it should empower us. So flat motherfucking power. Flat power. And the only way it will empower if you journey deep down a rabbit hole. Some of y'all ain't going deep in the rabbit hole. That's where Flat Panthers go. We go deep all the way to Eden. Don't stop me at the flat earth or the dome. I want to go to the pole, and when we go there, we go to Herstory. You know, and y'all going on that journey with me back to that divine womb, and we unraveling a lot of mysteries together. So Flat Power, that's because it wasn't enough for us to just know it's flat. We wanted to know it's flat and what was happening at the North Pole and so much more. And that question mark is what keep these Flat Panthers on a quest. But if you ain't like that, your quest was over when you found out it was flat. The moment a lot of people found out the earth was flat, their quest was over. But there was a group of people out there who found out that it was flat, and their quest had just begun. And that is called Flat Panthers. That is called a Flat Panther. That is called a motherfucker that's screaming flat motherfucking power. It wasn't enough for us to know that it was flat. Some of y'all found out it was flat, found out gravity was fake, NASA was lying, and your quest was over. You look up today and you're just a boring a boring ass live stream saying the same shit we were saying last year. It's flat, it's flat, it's flat. Ain't no curvature. Another rap about the earth being flat. I'm not making no more music about the earth being flat. I'm making music about the poor being oppressed and the powers being in fucking charge. It ain't enough to know that the earth flat. I want my power back. Flat motherfucking power. What is knowledge if it don't empower you? Some of you found out the earth was flat and your quest was over. You ain't a flat panther. A flat panther is a person that found out the earth was flat and their quest had just begun. Flat motherfucking power. I'ma let y'all go on that note. Just remember, I genuinely love each and every last one of y'all, man. And y'all get up out of here and enjoy the rest of your night, your Friday night. It's still young. It's the weekend, baby. TGIF. And I'll talk to y'all tomorrow on an open panel. Peace and much love.